In this lesson, we'll learn how to add controls to our cat rig. So in this scene file, I've added more volume to the thigh bones using that same edit poly modifier. Now keep in mind that when we do this, we may have a difficult time going back to our object level. You can see that we can't get to those same properties. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that, how to get back to those attributes after you've added this object, this modifier. It's an option we need to turn on called Use Custom Mesh. So let's go ahead and learn how this works. If I were to go ahead and trash this poly modifier on the right thigh and scroll down underneath our bone setup rollout, you'll find that option. Let's go ahead and make sure that's checked on. And now watch this. If we were to go back to the left thigh, just to add the edit poly modifier back to the right, you can see when we go to our object level, choose yes, can get back to our properties. You can see it also unchecks that option. Alright, great. So this is wonderful because if we continue to make changes on one side, we can still transfer all of those over to the opposite side at the click of a button, and I'll go ahead and show you that. Let's say if we wanted to add those same segments we see on our left side over to the right, which would be a great idea to get some really nice twisting as the ankle rotates. So in that case, what we'll do is go in and remove our edit poly modifier. It's a good idea to at least have one to transfer that back. Just drag and drop it back. But I'm just doing that so we can make sure that Use Custom Mesh is on here. And now we could go to the right side and add the modifier back to the left. I'll go to the object level, choose yes, and now scrolling to the top, I'll go ahead and copy all of the changes here, go to the right side, go back to the object level, and paste. You can see that now the opposite side shares the same properties and values. Alright, beautiful. So I did want to point that out to you, but let's go ahead and talk about controls. Now they're very simple to add, honestly. It's just a matter of selecting the bone you'd like to add a control to, right-clicking and choosing Add Gizmo. We have a list of different shapes we can use. I tend to just work with the N-gon shape. I just like the shape. That's just me. But you could even use a rendered shape, not rendered in the render view, but rather in our viewport. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the N-gon. Now you can see when we choose OK, what we're left with is a control that shares the same color as the bone object it's been connected to. And watch, we're able to rotate and translate just fine. So what this is basically doing is giving us an indirect tie-in to the bone that we have added this manipulation gizmo to. Now, since it matches the same color as the bone object, what I tend to do is first recolor the entire chain and then go in and create the controls. It's always a good idea to make sure that our control rig is color coded. That way it's very easy to differentiate between our entire rig. So what that means is as we animate a very complicated performance, we can always keep track of our left and right sides. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the gizmo. You can always color code the gizmo from here at the top of the modify panel. However, that's not the case for our chains. They need to be done from our object level. Otherwise, those changes will not be saved. Alright, so it's just easier to go in and delete the gizmo, recolor the chain. I'll go ahead and grab the clavicle, head over to the color properties under the limb setup rollout here. And I'll choose a color of blue for the left side. There we go. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the right leg. Excuse me, the left leg, that is. I'll go back to the object level. Underneath our limb setup rollout, let's go to our color options and choose OK. Beautiful. Alright, so now it's just a matter of doing the same thing on the right side, only we could use either a color of red or green, whatever you like, just as long as it's different. Okay, so I'll just go in and use red here. So I'll crank that up, and the others down. Let's do the same thing for our right thigh to finish up. So I'll bring up red to 255 and the others to 0 and choose OK. Alright, great. So now when we go in and start to add our control objects, let's go ahead and pick on the left wrist again. We'll go ahead and right click and choose Add Gizmo. I'll add the N-gon shape, choose OK. And now we can get to its radius property just to bring the size down, maybe to about a value of 7. Great. So let's do the same thing for the right side. Right click, Add Gizmo. And I'll go ahead and again work with an N-gon and bring the size down to 7. So for these, we wouldn't need to necessarily add an edit spline modifier to edit its shape. I think it works just fine. However, there are a few of these where we may consider doing that. The chest is one of those objects. With that selected, let's go in and add our gizmo. You can see it's not the easiest to select. So in this case, what I tend to do is go in and add the modifier in. I'll press the E key to quickly find it, edit spline. Going to our spline subobject level, we can now go ahead and grab the shape, go to our rotate tool, enable angle snap, and rotate this up 90 degrees. Now that's much easier to work with. Great. Let's go ahead and design a head control. This is going to take forever, not quite. Just go back to Add Gizmo and add an N-gon. Beautiful. Alright, so we can now move to the clavicles, and here's another area where we may want to add the edit spline modifier to correct its shape, and I'll go ahead and show you why. Let's go ahead and add in the N-gon, and you can see that kind of overlaps with our chest control. It's not oriented the best way. Even though we know that it's matched to our clavicles orientation, I think we can at least edit the shape so it's easier for the animator to work with. So to do this, again, let's just go in and add the spline. Let's grab the spline sub-object, and let's start to tweak it from here. That way, when we transfer this over to the opposite side, it kind of mirrors these changes. So I'll just rotate this in. Might want to turn off angle snap. Start to move this in place. Maybe move it out a little bit more in the x-axis. Bring it up in the z-axis. And I think that will work well. Alright, so once we're satisfied with the shape, let's go ahead and create a control on the right side. And let's go ahead and transfer that edit spline modifier over. And notice it mirrors that shape for us. So that saves us some time. Great. Alright, well, let's go ahead and work on a control for the pelvis. Right click and add another N-gon. And here's another object that we'd want to add that edit spline to. And here's why. I'll just go back and add it, and I'll show you. You can see that it isn't the easiest to select right now. It's interpenetrating with our thigh bones, and I think we could do a better job here. So I'll just simply go to the spline subobject level and simply raise this up just a little bit higher. Much better. Alright, great. So we're left with a control system now that an animator can get right in and use. So that's really fun, and they'll appreciate that. Now we also have an extra set of controls to add for our absolute IK system. And there's a hidden control that we will need to add in, and that is just for more elbow manipulation when we are using absolute IK. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do just that. But before we get to this, in the next lesson, I'd like to point out to you how to freeze transforms on our rigging to get it cleaned up and ready for animation. So we'll learn how to do that in the following lesson.